business case prepared by James. So later we will also have a group discussion, and later Jessica will introduce how to proceed that. Okay, I'd like to hand over the time to James.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Nick, and also thank you for the general introduction. So yeah, I have a look at the class profile. So I'll say that you guys have quite a pretty diverse background. So I have majority of you being business students. That is great, and also have some in life sciences, in econs. So I think we have a very interesting group of students here today in this class as well. Yeah, we have a long day, so I'll just cut the chase and get on with my biography first. So a little bit on my self-introduction. I have been in the industry for around 13 to 14 years. Classical procurement journey. So I started day one after my graduation, managing procurement from a local context in a smaller company, which is Capital Corporation. So it's a local conglomerate and it's a government company. So within the company, there are many business units. And I'm with the offshore marine industry, so mainly doing oil construction. And along the years, I moved through different companies, like what Nick has mentioned just now. So at one point of time, I was with Chevron, buying commodity chemicals, specialty chemicals, and eventually I moved on to Unilever, which is a company that manufactures, ice creams, Ben and Jerry's, and your soap bars, your shampoos, and stuff like that, right? In FMCG industry, so fast-moving consumer goods. And after that, I moved on to join another company, 3M, in the industrial industry sector. So mainly they produce semi-finished goods into many different industries. So I've not seen any other companies, right, that manufacture so many different kind of products that is being handed over to many different industries, right, that you guys might not know, even myself, right, prior to joining 3M. So it's a very interesting company. And most recently, I'm with AWS, Amazon Web Services. So not to confuse AWS with the parent company, which is Amazon. So Amazon is pretty well known in the e-commerce industry. So I am from the data center entity of that company. So we construct data center mainly for our own use and to extend our own internal services to our customers. And lastly, most recently, I actually show again, I'm joining a co-location player. So basically, what co-location means is that we provide capacity for hyperscaler customers, so namely Amazon, Microsoft, Google. Yeah, so when they cannot build fast enough, so we are there to actually support them by providing capacity. So same data center infrastructure, but quicker delivery. Yeah, so still managing CapEx procurement for data centers. So you see, along the years of 13, 14 years, I've been buying a lot of stuff from CapEx tender, building oil construction, and buying chemicals, and eventually to data center industry, helping them to tender out data center scope, the energy or the internal infrastructure facilities. And a little bit about my academic background. So I have a master's degree from National University of Singapore, in supply chain management. And just 2 years ago, I did my master's in business administration. Yeah, so to give myself a more holistic view in terms of how a company basically runs their P&L. Yeah, so I just completed my entire studies last year. Yeah, attended my graduation ceremony. I think yours will come pretty soon as well, I believe, for the master students. Yeah, so concurrently, I'm also doing adjunct teaching, business school, again with National University of Singapore. Yeah, guiding the younger folks on procurement as well. Okay, now let me try to switch. I'll go to the next slide. So today, right, the topic will revolve around none other than procurement, which is my expertise. Because a lot of you guys might not have that background, because most of you have not started your job, your first job, so you might not even know what procurement means, right, in a company context, and what kind of strategy that the procurement folks they have been thinking. A lot of effort has been put through for the procurement folks. It's not what the people used to think, right? Like the procurement folks they just do buying. It's very easy, right? You just get the requirements from the end users and go to the market and buy for them. So that is more like a traditional role. And nowadays when people call us buyers, right? To me, right, I feel that it's a little bit of understatement, because we do so much more than just transactional buying. It's not like you pass me a requirement, I'm being a paper pusher, I just go to the market and source and get the product that you want, regardless of price and any other considerations. So that is not the case anymore. So let me go more deeper into what we actually do on a day-to-day basis. And as you move up the career ladder, right, you tend to hold on to more responsibility, just not just the basic sourcing, but more on strategic planning that will ultimately affect the P&L of the company. Okay, so how I intend to run the class today is to give you a quick definition on procurement, right? What is our day-to-day job, what we look at that will ultimately translate to something that's positive for our accounts, and at the same time, what is expected of a procurement professional. If any of you guys are interested to pursue a similar career in the same field, yeah, be it regardless of different industry, yeah, but I think the fundamental will still stay, and you can continue the same practice. Yeah, if you can take away anything that's useful from this class. And I also share some of the case study, or rather the actual real job that I've done, the real analysis that I've done for different companies. Of course, I'm keeping things confidential, right? I've not called some of the names, just so you don't know exactly what's the context. So just to give you a quick overview of what procurement looks at on the broader picture. And finally, I'll end off with what Nick has mentioned just now in internal discussion. We have drafted a topic for you guys to discuss within your own team. And we will leave the last maybe 20 to 30 minutes for you guys to present. There's no right or wrong answers, just more on your sharing and how you view this scenario, right? If hypothetically, if it actually happens, right, how would you actually react in that kind of scenario, to actually test a little bit on your critical thinking and whether to gauge yourself, are you suitable for a future career in procurement as well, right? And one expectation from the class is that I hope to run this in a more interactive manner. So instead of just me talking alone, right? I'm hoping to also gather your feedback along the way. If you have any question, feel free to stop me or pop your questions along the way, right? I'll be very happy to answer them. Okay, so now for the interactive session, right? So I want to ask the class, right? Feel free, anyone, how much do you know about procurement? You can give me a very simplistic definition, layman terms. That's absolutely fine, right? Just how much do you know about procurement? Does anyone in the class just unmute yourself and just tell me anything about procurement? Yeah, I'm seeing a heart shape flowing up. I don't know, does that mean that you want to answer that question?
How about let's group one? Group one, could you help to answer this question to share your opinion?
Yeah, don't worry about the anyone. I mean, you are in the university, right? So I think the expectation is that you need to be more vocal, right? And by expressing your thoughts, right? There's no right or wrong answers. Everybody here is learning, so don't worry about that. Is it
okay? I saw someone raise your hand.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Is it Jess?
Yeah. I think procurement is the process of acquiring something that you're in business in. So like probably the goods. How do you achieve that? Like for example, negotiating with the suppliers.
That's actually pretty good. Yep. Any other student want to try as well? Right. Is it Michael?
Okay, hello, I'm Michael from Group 4. So I think that procurement is the process from researching what kind of suppliers that you can get and also ensuring that the supply chain is stable. So it means that you can get a stable supply of your equipment or your supplies or your resources so that you can sustain your operation.
Perfect. How about, I think Nadine wants to try, right? I think she, yeah, I saw a message popping up. I think Nadine, you want to try as well? Oh, Yasmin, yeah, you might try as well, no problem.
Okay, I think procurement can be sourcing, like you mentioned earlier, whether it be for materials, vendors, and whatnot.
Right. Okay, let me just put across to you. So does procurement means buying things cheaply, right? Does it just simply means that way? Right? You got to buy, go and source, just get me the cheapest possible stuff in the market so we can maximize our profit for the company, as simple as that. I mean, in the past, right, even now, a lot of people, they might have this impression that, hey, procurement, right, no, you just go there and help me do a quick fix of the problem, right? Get me the material, I'll build it and we will sell, as simple as that. But things are not so simple, right? So I always like to bring up this triangle, so which we call it the triple constraint. So just imagine, right, if I ask you, is there anything that is cheap and good and fast, right? So usually these three things, they don't come in the same sentence, right? So maybe if I would argue, right, on my own definition, I would say that McDonald's is at the same time cheap and good and fast, right? So I think nobody will actually challenge that because it's definitely cheap and good and fast, right? But that comes down to one single thing, which is expectation, right? So at that particular price point, for that quality and that speed of delivery to your table, right, when you order it, it is acceptable. So what procurement essentially is trying to do, right, we are always trying to juggle between these three components. We're trying to balance between the trade-off. If you want something that is very good quality and you want it fast, you have to compromise on the cost, right? You have to pay a premium to acquire the goods, right? So that's expectation. On the other hand, right, if you want something that is cheap, right, then you have to compromise on the speed, right? Probably the quality is not as good, but it's usable, right? So what I'm trying to send across the class is that in procurement, we are always trying to juggle these three components, and it is not something that is easy because you need to ascertain the level of quality that you yourself cannot do it alone, right? You need a technical team, and cost depends very much on the custodian of the budget, right? Sometimes the company organizational structure can be that procurement is leading costs, and it can also be a case whereby business unit own the cost, right? So you might or might not have to say in terms of how expensive or how cheap you want to pay the price for that goods. And speed is always non-negotiable, right? Everybody wants things to be delivered fast, right? To the warehouse, especially in data center construction, I can tell you, we are always firefighting, trying to get the cement, trying to get the power equipment to commission the data centers so we can serve the customers. Yeah, so day in, day out, these three components you cannot run away if you want to be a procurement professional. Okay. And the definition, so sometimes people term procurement as purchasing and they see it interchangeably, but procurement is actually, I would say, the collective term for sourcing. So you go to the market, you source for the right suppliers, or strategic partners. And at the same time, like what Michael has mentioned, you need to ensure business continuity by getting the goods for manufacturing, if you're in the manufacturing industry. And also all the transactional stuff whereby people traditionally call it purchasing. So you need to place your PO, you need to ensure that the goods is delivered on site. And we usually call it the 3-point checks, right? So you have your PO against the DO, and after that, you'll receive the invoice from your suppliers to make the payment. So yeah, generally, this is the transactional piece of procurement, but that's just a small piece. And nowadays, don't focus on that too much because you have all the technology, right? That's all being covered by technology. So we don't really need human to do that. So we need human like you guys, right, to actually focus more on the strategy portion of procurement. And the fundamental difference between procurement and purchasing is really the intent of going out to the market to understand the market dynamics, right? Value chain, both externally and internally. So externally, be it your suppliers, and also extended to your market intelligence. So those people that can give you information pertaining to price, supply, and demand. And internally, you have a lot of stakeholders, right? Maybe people from R&D, people from commercial, people from contracts, and even legal can be involved because there will be legal implication when two companies they do business together, right? Yeah, each of them they're trying to cover their own benefit, right? So they will definitely put in terms and conditions to safeguard their interests. So there's a time where legal is also involved. And the task it can be proactive or reactive. So later I will show you a couple of slides to make you to give a better understanding on this particular aspect as well. Yeah, so you see, procurement, we are busy people, right? So I always tell people that the procurement, we are one of the function that coordinates the most, right? So you can see the table, right? Revolving around us, you have sometimes if it is a large organization, you have your sourcing team that really goes out to the market and explore potential suppliers, and you have people in the category team whereby they will study price analysis, how much have you been spending, who are your key suppliers, and how should you craft a strategy to the extent of leveraging on the volume that you're buying from the different suppliers. And you have the ops team that does the transactional stuff, like issuing POs, getting the invoice, and make sure that the delivery is on site. And even sales and marketing, because they are the first level of people, right? They will actually understand how much is being sold and how much of a material that we need to buy in order to fulfill their order from the customers. And people from the production side, they need to plan their production cycle in order to meet the demand. And many others like quality, to ensure that we have the right quality, and R&D, whether if there's any change in formulation, and definitely finance will have a say in terms of how soon and how fast we want to pay the suppliers, and whether the invoice from the supplier matches with the PO that's been provided initially. Yeah, so you see, day in, day out, we are talking to a lot of people, and it gets busy. And it's not just your own piece of work that you have to manage. You still have to socialize with a lot of people to get their internal support in order to make things happen, right, within the company. Yeah, so it's another insight for people who want to consider career in procurement. And right, so just like any other functions, right, we have our own fundamentals to follow. So in procurement, we have 4 main core pillars, I would say. So the first one being total cost of ownership. So you don't just see things on the surface. For instance, if I want to buy a piece of equipment, it costs $200,000. It just doesn't end there because we need to assess what comes with this $200,000, which sometimes might be hidden, right? For instance, the delivery cost, maybe one piece of equipment costs $200,000, the other one costs $100,000. I just don't choose the cheaper one. The short answer is no, because you have to consider maybe the delivery is from a further country and it costs a lot more, and maybe that equipment is less efficient and breaks out easily based on track records, and maybe you need to incur more OPEX, which is operational costs on the maintenance, and maybe it is not as energy efficient. It burns more fuel. So in the long run, if you do maybe a 2 to 3 years kind of cost analysis, you actually notice that the cheaper equipment upfront is cheaper, but in the long run, it actually costs more than the other piece of equipment, which might appear to be more expensive, but much more efficient. Yeah, so in short, you have to really look at the entire total cost of ownership when you procure. And the next one is your risk management and supply continuity. So I can share that during peacetime, right, you might not be able to see because things are just running smoothly. But myself, I've gone through a couple of crises, COVID, pandemic, oil and gas downturns. So I have the opportunity to actually see how resilient a company is when the market suddenly tumbles and crash, right? So I think even before that happens, as a procurement professionals, you need to think beforehand. You need to be proactive in developing your strategic suppliers. So, for instance, maybe you're comfortable with just one or two suppliers during peacetime. Don't just stop there, right? Continue to explore the market and try to expand your supplier pool. Give them a little bit of orders so that keep them warm. And at times whereby you have some issues with your core suppliers, at least you have a backup plan. And you also have to pay attention to the news in the market, just in case there's any geographical risk, right, that might affect your supply chain and delivery. And of course, the supply and demand dynamics. I mean, the more you buy, the larger influence you have over the suppliers. So try to also consider leveraging on the fact that maybe you have a small purchase volume for a single item, but what we try to do as procurement professionals is that we try to collectively leverage on what we can potentially buy to expand our spend with a particular supplier. Because only in that scenario you can try to be the key account of a particular supplier, so they give you more focus and attention. So you have a larger influence over price, delivery, production slot, and a lot more other benefits as a key customers to the suppliers. And lastly, on supply strategy, later I will show you a slide whereby we actually segregate them based on the level of importance, strategic, bottleneck, leverage, and routine. Yeah, later you'll get to see a slide on this as well. Okay, so we often like to complicate things, right? But let me explain to you. It's not that tough a table to understand. So basically, right, your key suppliers will be put in the strategic boxes because they are some of the suppliers that will affect your P&L pretty much because they are just that few suppliers out in the market that you cannot replace them easily. For instance, like your computer, if you're running on Windows, right, can you replace any other vendors? Probably you'll say Apple, right? But it's not so easy because your organization probably maybe 80 or 90% is already using the same platform. So to replace them up is pretty challenging. And you have the next group being the bottleneck items. Sometimes that spend might be negligible, right? For instance, like in a hospital, you have been using like syringes. These seemingly might be a small spend and unimportant, but those syringes are actually highly regulated. So if you want to replace that supplier, it will also be a challenge despite that your spend with the suppliers will be small. And then the other one is those that you have a lot of supplies out there and the market is mature and stabilized, so you have a lot of options. So those are the supplies that you can basically leverage by buying huge amount from just a few of them, right, to actually tap on better pricing. And the last one, the non-critical items, basically they're just transactional, like your office stationaries. All these are not so important, low value, but you need it for your business, so those can be actually automated. Yeah, so in short, right, what we have been trying to do is always to shift the importance of the suppliers down the metrics, right? For instance, like we try to always shift down the strategic suppliers to be bottleneck items and eventually to leverage items, and if possible, right, make them non-critical items. So we have better control over these suppliers. So this is what we have been trying to do as procurement professionals. Yeah, so what makes a good procurement professional? If I can also ask the class, what do you think, right? After me myself sharing for the past 10-15 minutes, what do you think will make you yourself a good procurement professional? What do you need to know? Does anyone in the class know right or wrong answers? Don't worry. Yeah, Kesley? Yeah, I saw Kesley first, followed by Lucian, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Right, or rather, Lucian, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so from my understanding, a good procurement professional, they need to be good at how to prioritize the item that is crucial for the whole operation to work, and also they need to be really good at like negotiation and looking at the negotiations such as like trading terms, like payment terms, and like shippings, and also the speed and meeting the right speed and the right cost. I think I hear it from someone. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I agree that you need to choose your game wisely, right? Because there are just so many items that we buy, and you need to really focus on the key spend that will move the needle. No point focusing on just 10, 20 bucks of items, right? Because that wouldn't change your P&L by much, right? So yeah, thanks. Is it Jessica? Jessica, yeah.
I think a good procurement needs a very critical thinking in making decisions, and it has to be focused on the long-term value as well, and not just simply making short-term purchases without thinking on the further.
Correct. Yeah. So even I am an advocate of don't enjoy the short-term comfort, right? Always look long term, right? Otherwise, if now you're not doing anything, it will be a struggle when a crisis really comes, right? So let me jump to the next slide. So what I feel would be a good procurement professional actually would be you need to know what you're buying, right? Otherwise, you'll just be a paper pusher, right? So people ask you to buy, you just buy without knowing what you're buying. So if you have that technical understanding, you don't need to be an expert, but just basic understanding, take some time, right, to learn about what you're buying, so that will be easier for you to actually manage the category eventually. And you need to love reading. I know nowadays you have ChatGPT, right? You just punch in the contracts and summarize in 100 words. No, you get the gist of it, but don't do that because there are a lot of fine print reading contracts that will help you in your learning as a procurement guy or even because some of the things that if you don't pay attention reading it, right, you might just miss it, which is critical and might affect the company in a manner that you wouldn't expect it. For instance, like LD, liquidity damage, which is very painful for a company if that happens. And like what Jessica has said, right, you need to be proactive, right? Even during peacetime when nothing's happening, procurement, you're done well and you get the delivery that you want. Think something that that's in the future, right? That you can plan ahead, like your business continuity plan, right? What if a crisis happens? What is your fallback plan, right? What's your plan 1, plan 2? And this should always be in your mind, right? If something like that happens. And stakeholder management, sometimes you might see that procurement, maybe in your future job, try to observe a little bit. Procurement always go around socializing with people, right? It's not that we have nothing better to do, but we are trying to get to know more about the internal stakeholder structure because the organization sometimes is very big and we don't know who does what, right, within the organization. So the more people we know, the closer we know them, it's better that you can influence their decision, right? If they are key stakeholders in your future purchase, right? So always remember that your role will become vulnerable if it is just transactional and tactical. I mean to say that people ask you to buy, you just buy, and you just make sure that things get delivered and you don't think anything out of the box. This will eventually become very dangerous because with the concept of AI, right, your role might be easily replaceable. Okay. Yeah. So now I'm going to give you a glimpse on the realistic view of the actual job. So this is for real. This is something that I personally have done for those organizations that I have worked with. Okay. Yeah. So even before I do that, right, just now, I think one of the classmates actually mentioned about negotiation. So negotiation is an interesting topic in the sense that it is something that we do day in, day out, right? So is there anything that we need to learn? Do you think negotiation can be taught, right? And just give a very simple example. For instance, when you go for your grocery shopping, and now you like to basically buy things online, right? So and even bigger purchase. So maybe next time you consider buying a car yourself, and even move on to buy your own apartment. So doing that sort of purchase, right, you always need to negotiate right from the seller. Give me a good price, but the level of negotiation and the tactics of negotiation might be different. For instance, will you spend a week negotiating with somebody that's selling vegetables? Probably not, right? So you probably she says $5, you say $4, something like that, right? Just a random throw, right, of the price that you want, right? Just trying out your luck, right? And when it comes to apartment, it's a bigger purchase. Probably you will do a lot more research, trying to figure out, hey, if this apartment is worth the price that you're paying for. So there is actually a difference between pure bargaining and negotiation, right? So bargaining, basically you have no context, you have no understanding about what you're actually buying and the real cost of the item. But when it comes to negotiations, you need to really deep dive into the actual cost of that item, because your suppliers also know their costing, right? And they're also trying their luck to see how much are you willing to pay. I mean, definitely if you pay more, they get to earn more, right? So you also don't want that scenario to happen. Yeah, so an opportunity for the students to also share, right? Can you tell me some of your own personal experience when it comes to negotiation? Yeah, small, big, more important, just more on the experience. And we can also evaluate that scenario, right? And make the other students also think about whether you are doing the right level of negotiation for things that you want to buy. Anybody want to give it a try? Okay, you share, no problem. You want to try again?
Yeah, I would like to share some of my experience. So when I was working as a sales in a semiconductor equipment company, and what we are selling is what's called a 4PP probe. So it's a probe that are using in the diffusion and like thin film type of process. And the material that we use is the carbon tungsten, which is a metal and with the carbon inside. So when we try to negotiate with the procurement on the customer side, and they will question us about how we raising our price like every year by year. So we need to find a lot of figure like showing them the tungsten metal price has rising and inflation are rising, and shipment and a lot of operation costs is like rising, and need to prove to them why we are rising our price with a correct or valid reason.
Perfect. Actually, like your example, very much because I can relate. People always say that sales and procurement is always a tug of war, right? So we're trying to get information out from you, and at the same time you're trying to get information out from us, right? Sometimes you might be seeing like they're having meals together, but I can tell you, right, in fact, nobody's eating, right? They're just putting food in their mouth, but in their mind they're strategizing, right? Like how to get information out. For instance, at procurement, we want to know what's our bottom price, and at the same time they also want to know what's our actual demand, right? Are we buying everything from them, or are we buying from some other suppliers? So I think that it is an interesting example that Lucian has shared. Okay, so anybody want to give it a try?
I want to add on some of this.
No problem.
So, yeah, it's like a tug of war. So you don't need to show your cards at the first place. You have to show like one by one. So here's the reason, my second reason, but it's not like putting all the eggs into the basket. It's like through the several rounds of negotiation, and finally we'll come to the place that okay, now we will meet the middle ground, and you can accept that, and I can accept that, and that's the deal.
Yep, exactly. And if you have the time, let me go a little bit quicker because I really want to show a video to you guys towards the end. So this is something that I have already touched on. So basically, negotiation requires a lot more in-depth understanding of what you're buying, and bargaining basically who shout louder, right? And who succumbs to that pressure, will basically give you the best price. Okay. And some of the frameworks that we practice, right, in procurement is that we try to understand a lot about the sellers basically, right? So we try to craft a scenario for ourselves as well as for the sellers. So in 3 different categories: optimal, desirable, and essential. So if you look at this table, right, now if I were to walk into a meeting room, right, with my sellers in the meeting room, so I basically already know what I want to do, right, as a procurement guy, right? So I have 3 different scenarios. Definitely, I want something that's optimum to give me the best price and the longest contract duration and the longest payment term, because that will give me a better cash flow. But what the seller wants, right, is entirely the opposite, right? Because they want something quick payment or the best price possible, shorter contract, so they can get to renegotiate pricing. Yeah, so you see, that's why just now your friend, right, Lucian basically said that it's always a tug of war. Yeah, which is exactly the case. So we always try to do a trade-off because we know that we can never get everything. Because what you're trying to do, the opposite side is doing the same as well. So we always try to formulate in the sense that what can I give, right? Can I trade off something that is unimportant to me but is important to the seller? So we try to trade it off by taking something that we want. For instance, I want the price, but I'm willing to sacrifice an earlier payment to the seller, right? So in that sense, right, you get something in the middle ground that will help you to close the deal. Okay. Yeah. So eventually, you can see, right, we basically reach a middle ground that we can compromise by both parties and get the deal signed. Yeah. So basically, allows you to procure what you need. Yeah. This is the video that I want to show you, right, which I feel that is pretty interesting. Okay. It's just a 1-minute video. Let me just play it. Let me see if strange. As it's small, but I think you can see, right?
Jess, I can see, but I cannot hear the voice. I'm not so sure if others can hear.
Are you guys able to hear sound?
No.
You can't hear the sound. Let me see. Is that, let me see. See, is there any way I can enable the sound? Okay, don't worry. I mean, just watch it. I think basically you get the idea, right? You get the idea. Let me just complete the video and let me explain to you what the video is trying to say. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, right, just now what this video is trying to show is that when the little boy wanted something right from the dad, so if he were to tell the dad, hey, no, get me ice cream from the fridge, so by default, right, the dad would say no because it's something that's unhealthy for the kid, right? So straight away he reject. But now the boy has turned the table, right, by changing the context. So he said that, hey, can we spend a valuable time together, right? No, by having ice cream. And straight away the dad said yes because right now he changed the importance of the entire context. So this is how it's a little bit psychological that procurement sometimes try to also turn the table, right, by changing the context to get us something that we want. And in the second event, right, so the little boy wanted to actually watch the television, right? The mom by default would say no, right? So now the boy tried to shift the focus by telling the mom saying that, hey, let me have you fold the clothes, right? Then I can just know while you rest, he can just turn on the television and watch it himself. So again, right, now we also try to shift the focus, right, by not allowing, say, in the event of the seller to always focus so much on the price itself, right? You're just trying to shift their focus into something that grabs their attention, and you get a message across to help you close the deal. And one message that probably is not so obvious is that all this happen in a more casual manner. So sometimes I think the environment matters a lot. You and even the sales guy, maybe Lucian, right? I also say that we try to have some negotiations not within the office environment, because sometimes office, right, will give people a sense of being a little bit more defensive, because they know it's a corporate setup. They usually don't want to reveal too much. But if you bring them out for dinner, for lunch, right, maybe they're more relaxed and they tend to share more. Yeah, so that also helps when it comes to negotiation. And okay, and also I want to bring across this quote from a military strategist from ancient China. So his name is Sun Tzu. I think most of you might know him. So what he has said is that if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. So basically, right, he's trying to tell you that you need to understand what you want, right, and at the same time, you need to also understand what the seller wants, right. If you can understand the perspective from both parties, he actually helps you to close the deal. It's exactly what we have been trying to do for the ODE metrics. Okay, and yeah, and we have a couple of more interesting things which I will run quickly because of the time. So now we try to automate a lot of things. For instance, right now tender, right? Last time we used to do by really letter drop. Before they print out their proposal, they drop it in the letterbox. But nowadays we don't need to do that because we have digitalized the process. We have online auctions whereby you have platforms like Ariba, Coupa, that you can basically run your tender online, and it's pretty seamless. Okay, and also a little bit about category portfolio management. So when we are not doing the transactional stuff, so what are the procurement guys actually focusing on? So you see, we try to deep dive into how the company spend, right? Where are we spending into? So we try to identify the largest possible spend and who are we spending with. So with that information being available, right, then we know how to place them accordingly within the strategic boxes. Just when I mentioned about the bottleneck, strategic, and the non-critical items. So this is what day and day out we try to do. And yeah, there are actually established structured steps that you can follow when it comes to category procurement, right? So you see, you just have to define what's your strategy, and you have to implement and make sure that you track every milestone, and eventually materialize the plan. Yeah, this is one of the actual stuff that I've done for the company, right? So I analyze the spend, look at the volume, the several plans that they have for the top distributors, and and so I did this using Tableau, right? So basically break it down to show that how are we buying for which company and for which country, and make them a donut chart so they have better visibility, so people they understand better when they look at pictures instead of showing them a lot of different figures, right? Yeah, so make use of technology to do that in your job in the future. Yep. So yeah, so see, a lot of effort being put into, right, just so that you can present the last final slides. Okay, just let me quickly toggle to the last slide. Oh, so many of them. Yeah, so this is the conclusion, right? After looking at so many slides. So essentially, right, what I managed to conclude and showcase to the leadership team is that by readjusting and fine-tuning our vendor pool, right, we are able to actually ease off by having a smaller distributor base and leverage on a larger volume with existing distributors, and we can shift to a cheaper alternative by shifting off the material. And the best part is that you are able to reduce the unit cost. At the same time, you are able to shift that payment term extension. With a longer payment term, you actually allow better cash flow for the company. Yeah, so it's a lot of work done for procurement. So lastly, allow me to end off by again bring out the triple constraint table or the triangle, right? Always remember that you cannot fulfill all three corners, right? At any one time when you buy, right, always remember there is no such thing as cheap and good and fast, right? You always have to balance with one of the corners. Okay, right? So with that, I think, yeah, Nick, do you want to? Okay, let me show them the question first, then we go for break first, or rather, no, we can allow them to discuss.
I think we can take a break for 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, we can go back to proceed our section 2.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, we can do that.
So guys, how about take a break, and please go back at 6:30.
Yeah, see you guys later.